Hi there, these comments are for GB, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT. I'm going to listen to, I think you have 2 independent speaking practice tests. So the first one is, if you had to move to another city, which city would you move to and why?
If I were to choose to move to another city, I'd like to go to California for several reasons.
But California is not a city. California is a state. So where in California would you want to move? How about Los Angeles, San Diego, Sacramento, San Francisco? So be more specific than just talking about a state. That doesn't really directly answer the question. Now, also, for several reasons, that is a predictable, contrived type introduction. I do not recommend beginning for the following reasons on independent writing or independent speaking. That's not a good way to begin these kinds of responses. So if you want some tips on how to have more sharply focused introductions, I think for your TOEFL speaking, go to speaking lesson number 2. Now also, you can go over to my writing part of my course. I have a few lessons about creating thesis statements. You can also take a look at that, and that'll also give you some ideas on how you can more sharply focus your ideas.
If I were to choose to move to another city, I'd like to go to California for several reasons. First of all is because California have a stable climate all year around, so in this way you don't have to experience.
No, I wouldn't use you there. Remember, you're talking about your situation, so I would use either the I point of view or the third person point of view. Residents in California can take advantage of the stable climate. I would probably say mild climate conditions, but remember that these mild climate conditions are pretty much only if you live close to the ocean. If you live out into the inland areas of California, it's extremely hot in the summer times. Over 37, 38, 40, 41 degrees Celsius even. So it kind of depends on where you live in California on whether or not you have those mild climate conditions that you're talking about.
The harsh condition of the weather, like here in Virginia, where the winter is very cold and summer is very hot and with humidity.
Yeah. I live in California and it snows at my house in the wintertime, so you have to remember wherever you have to be more specific. That's why instead of talking about California, had you chosen San Diego or Los Angeles, what you said would have been exactly accurate, but just talking about California in general is not possible. We have many types of climates here in California.
Also, it's cheaper to live because you don't have to buy clothes for all seasons, so you need to buy just clothes for one season, so in this way you are going to save money. For this reason...
But that's not true, because I live in California and I have to buy clothes for the winter season. How about people who live in Big Bear, California, Lake Arrowhead, California? All these people have to have colder weather gear because it does snow in every one of those locations.
I'd like to move to the city.
Yeah, on this one, the problem is because you didn't focus on a city, you ended up making a lot of what we call overgeneralizations about the climate in California that were simply just not true. So had you focused on a specific city, you would more directly address this particular speaking task and thereby getting a higher score on this one. So you need a little bit better, I think, approach with your topic development on this, and also you had some problems with your delivery, specifically with your intonation. Your score here, I'm looking at the rubrics right now, so you have limited details and support. I'm going to put you at 2.3 out of 4, 18 points out of 30 on this particular practice test. In this second response, you're talking about whether or not you'd rather live in dormitories or off campus in apartments. So do you want to live on campus or off campus? That is the question.
I believe it's better to live in dormitories than out of campus in apartments for several reasons. First,
for several reasons. You did exactly the same introduction that you did before. What does that tell me? That tells me you're limited. You're limited in your sentence structure. You're limited in your vocabulary. You're kind of being a little repetitious. So again, you need a more unique way to begin these TOEFL speaking tasks. So my advice to you is the same as I said before. You want to take a look at speaking lesson number 2 first of all. Now also go to the writing section of my course and spend some time studying thesis statements, because you want to be very focused on your independent writing, and you also want to be very focused on your independent speaking, and that's going to help frame the most important parts of your responses in either area.
First of all, I believe that dormitories offer good environment for students to study together. For example, I remember when I've been in university, I had help from other students. So in this way, my studies were more easier.
Yes, good, but not more easier. Just say easier, because more is the same as ER. You don't have to use more and then ER. So because easy is a 2-syllable adjective, it's better to put ER on the end. But with longer syllables, GB, for example, intelligent, you might say more or most intelligent, as opposed to saying intelligenter. So the longer syllables, we put more or most in front of them, but the 1 or 2 syllable words, we typically put ER or EST at the end there. And I like the example that you gave there. That was good. But remember, as you give the example, you can say, well, for example, a while back when I was living in the dorms, and then say it like that, and then present everything that you just said.
And second, living on dormitories is cheaper for students. As we know, students spend a lot of money on tuition and other in books and whatever they need in school. So this in dormitory let them some space to use the money for other things they need mostly. For this reason.
So why is it cheaper though exactly? Right? And how can you explain that in comparison with living off campus? So you might say, well, living on campus is a lot cheaper because students can get special discounts on their rent and their food, and they can package this all together as one price, and they don't have to worry about paying for utilities, for example, electricity, gas, or water, like people have to pay when they're living off campus. So you have to kind of make that idea a little bit more complete so we can understand exactly why living on campus is cheaper than living off campus.
I believe it's more reasonable.
Okay. So what do we have? I think this one, your first example, I think was pretty good. The second example, you probably have to show more and present more ideas to show how it is cheaper living in dorms as opposed to living off campus. I'm not sure that you really made that argument very well. So some minor issues with topic development there. For the most part, pretty good control of your language use. Delivery, GB. I'd like you to really make an effort, the next practice test you send, really focus on that intonation. You have the tendency to kind of speak in a monotone. Now what you can do is go over to my lessons pronunciation and check out pronunciation lessons 36 through 40, all of which focus on the intonation patterns of American English. So really work on that. Try to speak a little bit louder, and then try to work on varying that tone. Now, I'll give you a tip. Here's your tip of the day. When you're speaking a sentence, right? Let's say you have a sentence with 25 or 30 words or something. Now, you have to divide that sentence into groups of 4 or 5 stressed syllables, right? Now, after each thought group, you should have a pause with a slightly higher tone. Then you have another group of words followed by another pause, and then once you get to the final thought group, that's when your tone falls just a little bit. And if you just remember that, that's a good way to think about how you can vary your tone, or when and where you should vary your intonation. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can also go to pronunciation lessons 41 through 44, which focus around thought groups and blending, and it will go over everything I just said in this video, but in a lot more detail. And you can practice. All right, your score here, I'm going to put you at about 2.5 out of 4, 19 points out of 30 on this practice test.